Most gardeners struggle with one thing: keeping plants nourished throughout the entire growing season without constant top-ups of fertilizer or compost. You start strong, healthy seedlings, rich compost, balanced nutrients, but halfway through, growth slows, leaves yellow, and yields drop. It's not that the plant stopped growing. It's that the nutrients you added early on have already been used up or leached away by rain and irrigation. That's where a method developed during soil restoration programs in the 1950s comes in: the subsurface feeding layer. This technique creates a buried nutrient zone that releases fertility slowly, right at the root level, for months at a time. It's not new, but it's rarely practiced correctly. When done right, it turns your garden beds into self-regulating nutrient systems that outlast any surface feeding or liquid fertilizer, with less labour, better soil biology, and more consistent growth. Let's go straight into how it works, how to build it, and the exact ratios that make it effective for an entire growing season. Most gardeners apply nutrients from the top: compost, manure, or organic fertilizer sprinkled across the soil surface. The problem is gravity and water movement. Every time it rains or you irrigate, soluble nutrients move downward past the root zone, while surface microbes consume much of the organic matter before roots can access it. Now, the top few inches of soil might become rich for a short while, but the middle and lower root zones, where most of the water and nutrient uptake actually happens, well, they tend to stay underfed. On the other hand, a subsurface feeding layer puts organic material right where roots grow the deepest. This kind of layer breaks down slowly, keeping moist and biologically active much longer than surface compost, which tends to dry out. The end result is a steady, gentle supply of nutrients that supports balanced vegetative and fruiting growth, without those dramatic highs and lows you get from surface fertilization. At its core, this method relies on a buried organic strip, roughly 6 to 8 inches below the surface, built to balance moisture, airflow, and decomposition rate. Think of it as a long, narrow compost trench under your crops. The key is controlling the ratio of green to brown material, so it releases nutrients steadily without overheating or going anaerobic. The ideal mix is 2 parts high nitrogen green materials to 1 part high carbon brown materials by volume. Good green materials include chopped vegetable scraps, coffee grounds, grass clippings, or fresh manure. Browns include shredded leaves, straw, or old mulch. Here's a simple formula. For every 10 linear feet of planting row, use 1 wheelbarrow, about 3 cubic feet, of material with 2/3 greens and 1/3 browns. Mix lightly, not compacted, and place it in a trench roughly 8 inches deep and 6 inches wide. Cover with 3 to 4 inches of native soil before planting. This depth ensures roots reach the feeding layer as they mature, rather than during early seedling stages when decomposition gases like ammonia could cause stress. The buried layer holds moisture naturally, meaning microbial breakdown continues even in dry spells. Once buried, microbial decomposition begins in earnest. Bacteria initiate the breakdown, consuming simple sugars and proteins, while fungi colonize the more complex carbon materials like straw or leaves. Within 2 weeks, heat generation subsides and a stable, oxygen-rich zone develops, home to billions of beneficial microbes. What makes this system last all season is that decomposition happens in stages. Quick materials like grass and vegetable scraps release soluble nitrogen early, feeding initial growth. Harder materials like stems and leaves decompose slowly, releasing potassium, phosphorus, and trace minerals over the following months. The result is, well, a nutrient profile that matches plant needs over time. Rapid nitrogen for vegetative growth, followed by balanced minerals for fruiting and maturation. To maintain microbial efficiency, moisture is key. The buried layer should stay slightly damp, not soggy, not dry. If your soil is light or sandy, go ahead and water the trench thoroughly after burying it. In heavier clay soils, it's a good idea to incorporate some coarse material, like shredded bark, to maintain porosity. For raised beds, the process is, honestly, quite straightforward. Before planting, just remove the top 6 inches of soil across your bed, then spread a 3-inch thick mixture of greens and browns evenly across the bottom and replace the soil. This creates a buried layer about 5 to 6 inches deep. You can plant directly above it. The microbial activity below will gently warm the bed early in the season, and over time continuously release nutrients. In open ground rows, you'll want to dig a trench right down the centre between your planting lines, or directly under where root crops or heavy feeders, like tomatoes, corn and squash, are going to grow. For example, let's say you've got a tomato bed with plants spaced about 18 inches apart. You dig a continuous trench along the row. Once you've filled and covered it, just plant your tomatoes right above that trench line. For perennial systems, such as berry bushes or fruit trees, you actually apply the same principle, but along the drip line rather than right at the trunk. A buried feeding band here really strengthens feeder root growth and, boosts fruit production season after season without needing to reapply. After about 4 to 6 weeks, you'll notice plants begin showing signs of deeper root feeding, darker foliage, increased stem thickness, and just a steady, uniform growth overall. Unlike surface-fed plants that often show rapid surges followed by plateaus, subsurface-fed plants maintain consistent vitality through dry periods and late into the harvest season. By mid-season, the soil above the layer becomes softer and more crumbly due to earthworm activity. Worms feed directly in the decomposing zone, converting organic residues into castings that further enrich the soil. By the end of the growing season, the feeding layer has transformed into humus-rich soil with balanced nutrient reserves, essentially a built-in compost vein ready for the next crop. Gardeners who've measured yields from subsurface-fed beds commonly report increases of 25 to 40% compared to surface composting, especially for heavy feeders like peppers, tomatoes and cucurbits. The biggest difference, however, is in plant resilience. Fewer signs of nutrient stress, better drought resistance, and stronger disease tolerance due to improved soil biology. After harvest, don't dig out the layer. Simply top-dress the bed with a thin layer of compost or mulch, and the existing microbial network will continue cycling nutrients through the soil. Every second or third season, you can reopen the trench or bed section and add fresh material to rebuild the layer. For continuous production systems, like greenhouses or year-round beds, you'll want to maintain 2 alternating feeding layers, one active and one resting, so that you always have a live nutrient source while the other breaks down fully. If you want to go a step further, you can inoculate your trench with diluted worm leachate or a compost tea at a 1:10 ratio with water before covering it. This speeds up microbial colonization and ensures a clean, aerobic breakdown from the start. This method is not a trend. It's a return to soil logic. By placing nutrients where biology thrives and roots can access them long-term, you eliminate the constant cycle of feeding, drying, and depletion. It's one of the simplest ways to achieve self-sustaining fertility without chemical input or mechanical tilling. If this guide gave you a new way to think about soil feeding, subscribe to Hydrohaven for more research-based gardening systems that actually work in real conditions. Share this with another grower who's tired of refertilizing mid-season. Because once you master the subsurface feeding layer, your soil will start doing the heavy lifting for you.